Hello, everybody. This is Dr. DRKIMDERAMO from the American Institute of Mind-Body Medicine, and I'm here with my awesome friend, Dr. Keesha Ewers. Dr. Keesha is board certified in functional medicine. She's a functional medicine doctor, and she is also an expert with a PhD in sexology. Who knew that you could get your PhD in sexology? But thankfully, someone has. And we're here to talk today about the three things that can destroy your libido. You know, sexuality is one of the most important factors that brings our body to life, that actually helps energy flow through the body and bring about health, well-being, vitality, youth, vigor, and also reverse things like anxiety, depression, and chronic illnesses like arthritis, chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, and, even thyroid disease and autoimmune illness. A lot of these things, when you get your sexual energy going, will help to sort of lubricate your body, balance out your hormones, and bring you a sense of vitality and well-being. So super important, and I'm so excited to introduce Dr. Keesha to you, and we're going to introduce you to the three things that could be destroying your libido and what you can do about them. So welcome, Dr. Keesha.
Well said, Dr. Kim. I couldn't have said it better, but you didn't say anti-aging. That's the other thing that it does.
Amen. Let's get younger.
That's right. So the top three things that destroy a woman's libido in particular are adrenal fatigue. We are now in this space that we've created for ourselves, which is, you and I have all these opportunities as women that we wouldn't have had 100 years ago, but now we're bringing home the bacon, frying it up in a pan, and having to look hot at the same time, right?
And you're doing a great job.
So are you. But my point is that at the end of the day, a lot of women in our generation are fried. They're fried, they're frazzled. A lot of them feel frumpy and fat, and they're fatigued like crazy. So when you think about that, there's a bucket of energy, and if we spend it all during the day, then at the end of the evening, when your partner comes to you and says, hey baby, there's not a lot left over, right? So I see that as one of the primary things that's going on right now is just stress. And when we're stressed, if you think about being a zebra being chased by a lion on the African savannah, it's not safe to stop and have a baby, right? And that's where those hormones are wired for reproduction. And if that zebra is running for its life for survival, then there's no room to stop and have a baby or go to the bathroom.
Yes.
So we get constipated, right? We get very tunnel visioned about that horizon place that might be safe, and we don't have a lot of space for libido. So that's one thing.
So it's like the stress, fight or flight response constantly going on in your system, and it shuts down your libido. It shuts down your reproductive function. It shuts down your desire to be sexual.
Exactly. And another thing about that is a study was done not that long ago on, it was a big study on 3,000 different women of multi-ethnicities. And it was a fascinating study because what they found is after 1 year in a committed relationship, 69% of women no longer had spontaneous desire. So spontaneous desire means I'm seeking out sex from my partner, and 69% is a pretty big number. But what they did find is if women had a willingness to feel desire and were willing to get aroused first, desire would come second. Now that was pretty revolutionary because from the old Masters and Johnson's sexual arousal studies that were done back in the 1960s, Masters and Johnson did this very linear look at sexual desire, then arousal, then orgasm, then refractory period. We now know that for women, that's not true. That's only men, right? And some women have it in that very linear way. But a lot of women have to just say, okay, I know this has been fun in the past. I know I felt good. I know it brings me some great juice in my relationship. I know I feel closer and more emotionally connected with my partner if I go here. So let me just go ahead and surrender to this process, get aroused, be willing to be aroused, and desire will follow.
So how do we be willing to be aroused? Because I think of arousal and desire as the same thing.
That leads us to the two other desire destroyers, okay? Automatic negative thoughts, you have to put them aside. And the third one is relationship conflict. So a lot of women can, just say, oh yes, if I'm in conflict with my partner, I don't really feel sexy. I don't feel like having sex with them. But Kim, would you believe that in the medical literature, there was nothing to indicate that when I started looking? I had all these women coming in my office saying, I hear that you prescribe bioidentical hormone therapy. And I would say, yes, what's going on for you? Well, I don't have any sexual desire. And I read that that will help. So I would say, okay, let's do some testing and we'll see how it's going. And then they'd sit back and go, okay, she's listening to me. And then I'd start asking these questions like, do you like your partner? Crying so often. So often I would have women that would burst into tears. No one's ever asked me that. He had an affair 5 years ago, or we've been, he's been out of work and he's been hard to be around, or we have a special needs child, or we have our parents living with
And
us.
then it's like, okay, let's fix you.
Exactly. And so
Fix your
I would
hormones.
say,
It'll make up for that.
exactly.
Which, of course,
So
it
I would
won't.
say, you know what? Testosterone, progesterone, estrogen don't fix that problem. So I started looking at that and I went into PubMed to look at, the medical literature and see what was there. Nothing. So I did a study. It's why I went back to school for sexology and got my doctorate in it. And I did a study that was called Healing Unresolved Trauma Study. And what I found when I did the study is that, yes, women, when they have old hurts, they can be triggered later and they won't feel sexual desire because it puts them in that zebra mode, right?
Wow.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you've had sexual abuse as a kid, which is the thing that we tend to think about, right? Turns out that when you do a PET study on the brain, a PET scan, that actually the same parts of the brain that light up for sexual desire are the same ones that light up when you're under stress. So it hijacks sexual desire when you're stressed.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So,
then if you've got these like incompletions in the relationship where you haven't like resolved or
right.
forgiven or come to a new place around that it's still active in your brain and still creating what's happening in your body.
Right. So you have these automatic negative thoughts that are created, and then it can create relationship conflict. We know that not having sex with our partner can create relationship conflict, and we know that relationship conflict can kill our desire. So it's like this roundabout, right? That's why if you have good communication, you have great sex, right?
Yes.
And so part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to educate particularly women about this, because this is a huge problem, sexual desire for women. And I thought, okay, I need to really start helping women understand that it's not just about their hormones. That yes, it can be a hormonal problem, but what caused it in the first place? So were those adrenals overdriven for too many years, and then that then co-ops your heart, your hormones. And so I put together this webinar program because I couldn't do it in my office with an insurance-based appointment, right? You just can't teach this stuff in 15 minutes. And so I have this really 8-week program, a free webinar for 1 week and then 7 weeks following, that goes through what I've discovered in my research are 5 root causes for low sexual desire in women. And it turns out these are the same ones for men too. So this is pretty big stuff. And like you said in the intro, if I look at your sexual desire as like an indicator light on your dashboard of your car, if you are low in gas or low in oil, you don't just press on the gas pedal and try to go faster in your car, right? You look at the lights on your dashboard and you say, oh, my car needs attention. If you have low sexual desire, something about your system needs attention. You don't just press on the gas and try and go harder, right?
I always tell people to have like the laundry litmus test. Like if you're folding your lover's or your husband's laundry, how do you feel when you're folding his underwear? And that's like a litmus test to check in with yourself and know, like, because you may subconsciously be resentful, angry, whatever's going on, but you don't notice it. But when you're folding their underwear, you're like, screw this. Why do I have to fold this person's underwear? This is ridiculous. I could be doing so many more important things. And you'll notice all the stuff come up in that moment if you pay attention and just do a check-in, like, whoa, this is not the way, is this the way I want to do my relationship? Is this the way I want to feel about the person that I could be closest to? And that's going to shut down your libido.
That's a great test. Yes.
The other thing I want to say, what you're talking about, so many women come to me and they'll say, well, I saw this other doctor and they told me my hormones are off. Oh, what can I do to balance out my hormones? Or, I get the mind body medicine stuff, but my hormones are imbalanced. And I'm like, well, of course, your relationship with your body is hormonal. That is going to create hormonal
Right.
changes, chemical changes. And of course, the way you feel about your sexuality and about your sexual partner is immediately going to create hormonal balance or imbalance. You can be in this really balanced, juicy state if you can kind of clear these pieces here and what you do in your program and in your work to help people clear those things so they can automatically create, because your body's a walking pharmacy. It can create the hormones that you need and the
That's
balance.
exactly right. But you have to get out of that fight or flight space. And what I
Right.
say is patch the hole in the bottom of your boat. So we can put hormones in a drop at the time. It's like bailing out a sinking boat with a teaspoon, right? But if there's a big old hole in the bottom of the boat, which is the most important part of this problem, then you're just going to have to keep doing that. And taking hormones forever is not a good idea. As you and I both know, there's all kinds of risks involved with that. So, there's so many easy things in your lifestyle that you can change and transform to be able to make this happen for yourself and let the body heal itself. And oftentimes you're so far in the hole that you do need to have some things to get you out of that hole. But then once you have the tools, and with mind body medicine, this, I know this, the Functional Sexology Institute was born because of this, right? It's finding and fixing the root causes of low vitality. That's what we do. So functional sexology is combining functional medicine with psychotherapy, with Ayurvedic medicine and sexology to come with a whole instead of just parts,
Just
right?
pieces.
Which is what
Yes.
we do in
And that's
American
what
medicine.
every woman wants, is like, see me as a whole. There's so many different
Exactly.
factors causing what's going on. And I think they're
Mhm.
struggling, but sexuality is for sure one major, major component that opens up all of our systems.
Right.
So I'm really glad you're doing this program. So I
And never are
want
you more vulnerable, right? You're never more vulnerable than with sex. And so that's the place where all of our stuff shows up. And that's why those automatic negative thoughts have to be healed. And that's why I call that the second destroyer of libido. Because if you have, like you were saying, folding the laundry of your lover, or you don't have good body image, or you believe sex is going to be something shameful or dirty from something from your culture or your religion or your upbringing, there are all these things that happen with us. And I call that libido mapping. You go through, and I have a workbook that I give for free for the first 30 people that sign up for the program that takes them through step by step with this. And it's just fascinating. People write to me all the time, I never even knew to think about this stuff. So I think that it's the libido story is such an important part of all of this.
What are some of the things you've seen women, like what kind of transformation from this work and from your program? What things have you seen? Because I know so many women that I've connected with, my patients, clients, or people, my followers, they have had so many challenges: anxiety, depression, chronic illness. My doctor told me I have blah, 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 blah. It's like a list of things. And they're like, I am at a loss.
Right. So from a whole number of things, because as we said, libido is that, right, that indicator light. So people lose weight because food and mood go together. What your diet is actually affects your libido. And that's so important for people to understand. If you're living on coffee and pastries, there's no libido at the end of the day. So that's a really important thing, because it zings you up and you're anxious and you get wired and then you crash, right?
Yes.
And so that's another piece. Another one is mood, just being able to feel grounded and stable. And I teach a great meditation practice during this. And I give a little workbook of chakra opening exercise. And it's just all about opening up your energy centers, because that's such a big part of sexuality. So people get
Yes.
grounded, they're able to sleep. People that have had problems with sleeping are able to sleep. I have people that write in and say, oh my gosh, I never even knew myself, and I didn't know myself. And now I'm really getting to know who I am, not who I am as a reflection for other people, like mother, sister, daughter, auntie, a cousin. I'm actually a person with my own vital being, and I'm able to express myself in all ways, including sensually. And so that happens, which is very exciting to me, because that's a huge part of what we are as humans, My belief is we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but have the human experience, right?
Yes.
We're here for that. And
Yes.
so don't cut
Especially with
off.
sexuality, that's one of the areas that
Yes.
gets so rejected about like, oh, I shouldn't have pleasure in my body. I shouldn't engage
Right.
or make that a priority. And the fact is when you do prioritize your joy, your pleasure, it helps just open up every aspect of your life.
Exactly.
Makes everything
Exactly.
easy. But it is
Yes.
like you mentioned, it is so vulnerable. It's one of the areas I see a lot of women where we can just choose to shut down, stay
Hmm.
in survival, manage everything else without realizing that a huge amount of our energy can come from opening to our sexuality. Huge
Right.
amounts. Like it can make everything joyful, whether you're cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry, taking care of the kids, in a household, or you're like full-time career woman and you want to go out and be who you're being in the world. Like all of it gets fueled by who you are as a sexual being.
Right. And then the other thing is relationship joy. So people learn communication techniques with their partner. Sometimes the problem in a sexual relationship is the partner, right? If there's
Yes.
erectile dysfunction or in a same sex relationship, the other one might have some problems. And so we go through a lot of that. And I give techniques and I give tips about communicating with this and how to work with it. So it's a really important thing because often couples don't talk about this. They think it's a product of age not to have a sexual life anymore, and that is patently untrue.
Yes, I
So,
agree.
yeah, you can be sexual through your 90s, and a lot of people are and are vitally happy because of it. And so when we just shut down because we're protecting our husband because he has erectile dysfunction, I don't want to make him feel bad, and I don't. So then I shut myself down. What am I doing for the relationship? Nothing good.
This is huge. I'm so glad you're doing this program because this is a huge component that's
Yeah.
missing in our medical field. So,
Yes.
so how do people, I want to let them know, I'm going to include a link how they can register for what you're doing with your program, but you have a free webinar to start with.
Tomorrow night.
Okay. So that's,
Right. December 1st.
okay.
And it's at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but it will be recorded. And so if people can't get online at 6 p.m. precisely,
Okay.
then we will send out, after they register, we'll send an email out later with the
Okay, so
recording.
I'll give them the link. They'll
Yeah,
register now and then be invited to that free webinar or have the recording. So they should at least
exactly.
definitely go for the free webinar.
Yes, yes. They'll have a lot of the stepping through the libido story process and some of those 5 root causes. I'm going to briefly talk about each one of them and give a little, I call it a KISS tip, which is keep it simple, sweetie. A little tip for improving each one. And so they'll get a lot of great information, but it's definitely just a taster for that 7-week deeper process.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will include the link there. And for anyone who is really on any level, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, your relationship, your physical health, I think this is the most fun medicine by
Yes,
far.
that's for
And the
sure.
most restorative. I know when I've done things to open into my sexuality, it's really changed my life immensely. And one of the ways you mentioned, like this rejection of like being in the world, like I should be more spiritual, or even like when we look at the chakra systems and it's like the upper chakras are higher, they're better, they're more spiritual, and the lower chakras, like don't spend too much time in them. And that's what I learned when I studied energy medicine. And now I know better because
Yes.
so much of our energy comes from really being in the world, how we're being in the world. There's like the
Mhm.
Buddhist philosophy of like transcend the world, but we really can't impact our family, our physical body, our world from that vantage point. And
Right.
with our sexuality, it's one of the most beautiful ways to give ourselves that gift of flourishing and to allow that flourishing in our lives.
Well, and one thing I didn't mention is you can be over sexual too, where there's too much of that and you're losing a lot of energy in that direction. And it's all about balance. Because again, if your RPMs on your car are too revved up, right, it's going to actually drain you. And so it's about coming into balance with yourself and making sure that you're nice and healthy. And the chakra system I often think of as we're a conduit in between heaven and earth. And so earth is just as important, and you get that grounding from it so that you can be spiritual. Otherwise, you're just spun up all the time.
I'm totally psyched about this program. I can't wait to learn all of this and be using it myself and in my practice and all of that. So I will include the link. Again, click that link in the email. You can come at least for the free webinar with Dr. Keesha. And if you know you're ready, register for the 8-week program for the libido cure. And this adrenal fatigue where you're burnt out, living in fight or flight, and learning really how to turn that off and how to reverse that. The automatic negative thoughts, that's a big part. Both of these are a huge part of my work as well. And how to come out of those patterns that are actually feeding and fueling negativity in your brain and your body. And then the relationship conflicts and how you can resolve that. I know a lot of people don't feel empowered to make those changes when it's like, well, my partner does this, or my partner is this way, or my partner has this thing. And then it's like, what do I do about that? And you're empowering women to make those changes and to create what's happening so that, oh my gosh, my partner is totally responding differently to me because I have a different energy. So it's a really empowering program. Any last piece you want to leave our viewers with?
Yes. What's in your head goes to your bed.
Amen.
So I want you to remember that. There's a lot of real estate between the brain and the vagina. And we talk about all of it, and it all has to work together for everything to work. So
well, I'm glad that doctors like us, that we're starting to talk about this and bring this into the field of medicine. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're amazing. I'm so excited to connect with you. And everyone, make sure you go to the link in the email to click and come to the free webinar with Dr. Keesha and begin the libido cure. And we'll be seeing you soon. This is Dr. KIMDERAMO from DRKIMD.com. Share this with anyone. This is open for the world. Send the email. You can forward it to anyone you know. They'll watch this video, get a little glimpse of what we're doing here, and you can have them register. What a Christmas gift.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, sending love. We'll see you soon. DrKIMD.com and Dr. Keesha Ewers. Click the link in the email, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.